You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it. That's the great thing about sports. You play to win. And I don't care if you don't have any wins. You go play to win. When you start telling me it doesn't matter, then retire. Get out. Because it matters.
You play to win the game. Well, good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here with my buddy Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. I hope everybody's having a great day. It's hump day. Hopefully we can get up over the hump and we'll have a great day. You know, last night was really, really cool because I met Susan and Jason. Shout out to you, Jason. Jason, diehard Dallas Cowboy fan. And we had conversations about the season going right, season going wrong, and of course, broke-ass media. And of course, here at Broadcast Media, we are the cameraman, the lighting crew, the soundboard. We're the research department because that's what we do when you're on YouTube. It's not ESPN that have writers that do everything for us. But doing some research and talking with Jason last night, and, you know, the bottom line is we as Cowboy fans have been owed by Jerry Jones for 30 years. He owes it to us to try and win the game. They've made fortunes upon fortunes. This is my plea right now to say, you know what? If we end up having to hit rock bottom, and maybe that's the thing we need to do, we should do everything we can. This is what my battle cry was last year, this time. It's like, okay, CD's on the last year of his deal. Dak Prescott's on the last year of his deal. Mike McCarthy's on the last year of his deal. To me, that would have been the time to say, let's do everything we can to make Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott succeed. And if it doesn't, no problem. We just let everybody go and we start all over. We just start all over. That was what I thought we should have done last year. You go out and you get an extra weapon for Dak Prescott. You go out there, you get some players for the defensive line, for Mike Zimmer and things, and try to go ahead and say, we're pushing the chips in here. We're going to get the best players available, you know, get them to a 1-2 year deal and just try and see if we can get over the hump. They chose to go the complete opposite direction. We're going to go ahead and sign Dak to this mega contract. We're going to lock him down forever. For the rest of his career. We're going to lock down CeeDee Lamb for the rest of his career. And a couple of problems with that. We all know I'm a Dak Prescott fan. I'm a Dak Prescott fan. But I can recognize that Dak Prescott got the better of both of his deals. He did. And I can't say that I blame him for doing it. See, you do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. You understand what I'm saying? There's right and there's wrong. And when you treat people wrong, sometimes it comes back to bite you. See, I look at it like this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in things, but this is how we get to where we are right now. When you look at where Dak Prescott was drafted, 4th round pick, they never thought he was ever going to see the field. Let's be clear here. They ran out of options. They wanted Paxton Lynch to go ahead and be the guy to replace Tony Romo. That didn't work out. They looked, of course, at the next prospect, Connor Cook, in there. Even before, a couple years before, they looked at Johnny Manziel. They didn't go into this draft and say, Dak Prescott's a guy that we're going to pay over $250 million, over $300 million. They did not go into that draft to say, this guy is going to be our quarterback starting for the Dallas Cowboys for the next 12 years. They did not. They didn't expect it. He was the 4th string quarterback in the off season leading to his rookie year. It's amazing that he's even a starting quarterback, much less a guy who started for the Dallas Cowboys for all these years. He came out rookie of the year offense. 13-3 record. Okay. The next year you had problems with Zeke Elliott on and off the field. You still were a 9-win team, 9-7, just missing the playoffs. And literally has been in the playoffs almost every year. The thing is, after year 3, where you've only been paying him $680,000. $680,000. Each of the first 3 years, you had the opportunity to say, let's go all in. Or at least let's say, Dak, you have performed above and beyond what we expected. You are our guy. You've been our starter for 3 years. Let's get you a deal to make you whole. They could have done it after that 3rd year, where they literally had a starting quarterback for 3 years, less than half of what they paid Trey Lance this past year, where literally the backup quarterback was making more money than the starting quarterback. It's still unbelievable to me to think that. Instead of getting that deal done for year number 4, Dak gets a raise because he outperformed his rookie expectation because of the NFLPA. And he gets $2 million. So you literally have this guy. For 4 years for $4 million. And see, here's the thing. After year number 3, if he gets hurt, can't ever play, thank you very much for your service. He's done for the rest of his life. He took all the risks at year number 4, and you didn't do the right thing then. And instead of after year 4 saying, we're going to go, hey, you know what? We were lucky to have you for 4 years. Instead of saying, let's get this deal done, you waited till the last damn minute to try and do a deal and shove shit in it and ran the clock out and franchise tagged him. Instead of learning from that, again, now we're talking about the first 5 years, Dak Prescott had no security. No security. To make it even worse, you came at him the next year and put a tag on again. You put on a tag. See, this is where you reap what you sow. You reap what you sow. You literally had a starting quarterback for 5 years, and it cost you $36 million. And he took all the risks. And then we as fans look at it and say, well, he's greedy. Dak is greedy. Why is he taking this big contract? Well, you wanted me to go ahead and bet on myself? Let me cash in. And even still, they wait and they wait and they wait and they wait to get things done. Dak's got more money than he'll ever need. Definitely will have more money than he ever needs. But what I had said going into last year this time, when I said, Dak, go in there and say, listen, I'm pounding the table right now. Are you going to be about something? Or is it, this is just it? That we are just the media thing that we do? Is that what we're about? Because if that's what we're about, then just pay me everything. I'll just take all the money, because I'm going out here and losing body parts, okay, having my hamstring ripped off the bone, having literally my ankle severed, problems that I'm going to have to deal with for the rest of my life. I want to win a Super Bowl. But if we're not, then I'm going to take every cent I can from you. I think it's a good trade-off if you're him. And if you want to say, we're about building a Super Bowl championship team, I'll work with you, because I want that. I can make more money by being a Super Bowl champion in Dallas than this contract. And that's kind of what Micah Parsons had said. Instead, they wait until everybody else gets paid. Everybody else, including the Prince down there in Jacksonville. $55 million. Second highest paid up there. You see, Tua got paid. He's over $50 million. Had you gotten these things done in a timely fashion, we wouldn't be here where we are. And unfortunately, I guess, if you want to hate me, fine. At least I'm paid. Dak Prescott's the most hated player on the Cowboys and will be. So here we are. Dak's got a contract. You can restructure and do something with it if you want to. If it's about winning, you can. The bottom line is, it doesn't matter how we got here, okay? Whether you're a Dak fan or not, I think you're a fan of trying to win. I'm assuming that we're all fans of trying to win. I always hear Dak can't win a Super Bowl, he needs things around him. Well, I have to say, I'm looking at Josh Allen, and Josh Allen ain't won one, and he needs things around him apparently. I've seen, Trevor Lawrence, he's gotten paid, and he can't seem to win one without pieces around him. I've seen Jalen Hurts there with pieces around him. Time will tell if he can win one with those pieces around him. I don't know. I've seen Brock Purdy with a lot of pieces around him, not able to do it. I can't say that I've ever seen pieces around Dak Prescott in the way that I've seen others have it. I just haven't. And I'm going to say, and you can call me a liar, but I think that Dak Prescott elevates a lot of the players around him. I just do. That part of the reason why we've been 12-5 isn't necessarily that we've just had great talent or just better. Sometimes it's because of what Dak has been able to do. And in the same way with Tony Romo, we didn't have enough talent to make that Super Bowl. We lived and died with what Tony Romo could do. And we're repeating that. So the bottom line is, we'll be better next year just having Dak Prescott there as a quarterback if he's healthy. But it's still not enough. You can't look at this and say one wide receiver is enough. Look at San Francisco. They lost Brandon Ayuk and Christian McCaffrey. They go down the toilet. We didn't ever have a situation like that. Great running back anymore. You look at the Eagles. Saquon takes them to a whole nother level where, because of his running ability, Jalen Hurts is kind of an afterthought. You literally have your wide receiver reading a book on the sideline because we got this in bag. I'd like to see my quarterback with situations like that. And at this point, what do you got to lose? What do you got to lose? There are players out there. There's Cooper Kupp. And I'm not saying that before we get into this, Cooper Kupp being 32, being injured, and so on, I'm not sure that that's the best investment. He's over $20 million a year, and you got to trade for him. Sitting here reading this morning, let me see if I can find it real quick. Trade package. I love this. I love this. This is on Bleacher Reports. Rams get Cowboys 2025 third-round pick, conditional 26 pick. Cowboys get Cooper Kupp and a 7th-round pick. Are you kidding me? I get it. We spent a number 4 pick for Jonathan Mingo. Okay. And a 4th-round pick for him. And he's literally the 4th wide receiver at the moment. Has, I don't think, 50 yards on the team. I'm not giving up a 3rd round for a guy who's 32 and $20 million. Then there's Myles Garrett that's out there. That's a whole nother thing too. But if I were to spend money on a wide receiver, you have Fanside. Fanside has the number 1 bold prediction being T. Higgins to the Cowboys. Now, who wouldn't want to have T. Higgins on their team? But T. Higgins, we're talking about probably like $30 million. And Cincinnati would be fools to let him go, but Cincinnati's another cheap franchise, and I could see them actually letting him go. But he is a difference maker for him. But that's another guy who's got some injury issues as well. And $30 million, that doesn't per se leave you with a lot of other room to go. Although, if the Cowboys went out and got T. Higgins with C.D. Lamb and then drafted Genty, you might be okay with the offensive line that you have. I mean, you might be, because that offense would be able to spread the field out like nobody's business, which would make it more effective for your offense. And having a guy like Genty back there, that would be the dream right there. I mean, hey, and you don't have to give up draft capital if Cincinnati doesn't get him. I'm just paying him cash. That's my situation right now is, you want to either have to give up money or draft picks. You don't want to give up both. And you certainly don't want to give it up for somebody who's really, really old. And that would be the dream case for me. And if you really wanted to dream and say, we're going all in, we're going to try and we only have a couple more years of Dak, and if it ends up being that he isn't done, then let's go out in a blaze of glory. If you really want to get crazy, then you trade for Myles Garrett. You put Myles Garrett on the defense, you bring in T. Higgins, and you draft one of the other running backs later in the draft. You do that, that team is going to be pretty good and better able to compete. None of that's going to happen because we're the Dallas Cowboys. But there are other options and other guys that are out there, because we do have a great number one receiver. We just need to be better than Brandon Cooks, who's gotten older right now at number 2. And if you really look at this, and for people that say this Dak just sucks, do you honestly look at our receiving core and say, oh my God, he's got incredible weapons. Look at, oh my God. Come on, people. I mean, come on. Be real. Be real. Jalen Tolbert, hey, he's okay. He's okay. I really think Jalen Tolbert should be your number 4 wide receiver. If he was on the Eagles, that's probably where he'd be. Brandon Cooks is not a viable threat anymore. Yeah, he used to get 1,000 yards everywhere, but he's in his 30s. And now he's got a knee issue. Jonathan Mingo? Come on, man. I still don't know what they were thinking when they traded a 4th-round pick for Jonathan Mingo. Not when you traded Amari Cooper for a 5th. I mean, that's where you were kind of like, what are you doing? I mean, seriously, what are you doing? Bottom line is this. The Cowboys have too many holes to plug. With a change in philosophy on defense, that means some of the guys that you have are not going to fit the new system, which means that's more players that played well in other systems that have to be replaced. Your offense, in comparison to weapons across the boards that other teams have, you are so far behind. And in a draft where you don't have your 4th-round pick, yeah, you got 4 5th-round picks. Yeah, that's great. But how many 5th-round picks do you expect to be day 1 starters to plug in and be ready to rock and roll? So the Cowboys are going to have to do more than what they're doing. They're going to have to look at some of these guys and say, yeah, we're going to do something in free agency. Would I love to hit Myles Garrett? Well, the problem with Myles Garrett is you're going to pay him and you're going to give up draft capital. That's just not going to happen, regardless of him actually wanting to be a Dallas Cowboy. And we've had plenty of players who've wanted to be Dallas Cowboys. We are here. Are we going to be about playing to win the game or the status quo? I don't know. But I hope that instead of us doing what we usually do, you got Dak, you're paying him, there's no way around it. Either you try and get him to waive his trade contract, no clause, and you still spend a boatload of money to get rid of him and still have to find somebody else, or you play him the next 4 years. Best thing you can do is, if he can't win it by himself, get him the people around him that'll help him win it. Because it's not about Dak Prescott winning. You don't get anything extra because they said he won it by himself. All I know is it's a Super Bowl team. and let's get that team together. Let's listen into some of the talk of players that are on the trade block right now.
That the team will be seeking a trade immediately. He announced that on social media yesterday. He had that record-breaking season in 21, led the league in receptions and yards and touchdowns, signed a 3-year extension worth a little over $80 million. He just completed the first season of that. If you saw him on social media, he wrote, "I don't agree with the decision and always believed it was going to begin and end in LA. Preparations start now for 2025. Highly motivated, as healthy as ever, and looking forward to playing elite football.
Yeah, we're always best shape of my life.
You guys, but coming for it all." Okay, let's start with the particulars. Graziano, insider extraordinaire. What can you tell us about the mechanics and how this thing we should expect it to go?
Scheduled to make $20 million this year, of which $5 million is guaranteed. $7.5 million is paid as part of a roster bonus in March. So the Rams would want to do it before then, ideally make someone else pay that roster bonus. That's where it gets tricky, right? This is a guy who's on the wrong side of 30. He's had injury issues. He's already been supplanted, as the number one receiver on his own team. I think there was a sense that if he was on the Rams this year, it wasn't going to be for $20 million. So is there a team willing to pay him that? Or will the Rams have to pay some of that money in order to facilitate a deal? If no deal materializes, could the Rams end up cutting the guy that was Super Bowl MVP for them a couple of years ago? So a lot of different ways this could still shake out, but it certainly does not feel like Cooper Kupp will be a Ram in 2025.
So I want to ask my guys here, Lewis, I'll start with you. It sort of feels like a weird question. It feels like 15 minutes ago that we were debating whether or not he was the best receiver in the NFL. Yeah. Now, as Graziano mentions, he's definitively not the best receiver on his own team.
Yeah.
So how impactful, we're going to get a trade here. He's going to be on a new team. How impactful a player is Cooper Kupp right now?
He's still a 1B type of player. I said 1A in the meeting. I should have said 1B. That's kind of what I'm really talking about as far as a guy who can still control the middle of the field. He can. If you look at a lot of the highlights here that you're going to wind up seeing, the ball is caught either a yard or two outside the numbers to a yard or two inside the numbers like that. He can still control the seams because he's just smart as hell. He's a guy who's super instinctive, reading coverages, adjusting on the run. Obviously, he had great chemistry with Matthew Stafford. He's going to now have to start over from scratch with a new quarterback and develop those kinds of things. I understand exactly what Dan is saying, though. When you're talking about a guy who's going to be making over $20 million or counting $20 million over, against your cap, who's 31, who's had an ACL injury, had ankle surgery, hasn't played a full season now, a full 17 games or a full 16 games, I believe in like the past 3 years, teams are going to, they can quickly flip on you. Where you thought this guy is a lifer, all of a sudden they start looking at those things and they start trying to project 2-3 years down the road and they start looking at their salary cap situation. They're going, there's the target. That's the guy we got to move on from. Yeah. But he's still a 1B who can control the middle of the field, seal some of the edges in the run game, just like he did for LA. A team would be wise to really look into this if they need that profile.
The Houston Texans, the San Francisco 49ers, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Denver Broncos. If I were one of those four teams, I would be immediately calling. I agree with Lewis. I think he's still a really good player. He's not going to be 2021 Triple Crown winner, but very much so a high-end, at worst, number 2 wide receiver. If you're the Houston Texans, you just hired a guy from the LA Rams, Nick Caley, accurately, is their new offensive coordinator. So there's that immediate transition. You don't know what you're going to get with Stephon Diggs and his health and Tank Dell. If you're the Cincinnati Bengals, are you realistically going to be able to sign Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? They continue, at least Joe Burrow does, to say that they can. I think that's a long shot. San Francisco, what's Brandon Ayuk's health coming off of his injury? They only really have Pearsall and Jennings, 2 good players, but Cooper's immediately an upgrade. And then Denver, him and Sean Payton, it's the perfect scheme fit. If one of those 4 teams I call.
I don't think they're going to trade him to San Francisco.
In the division.
I don't think so.
I feel pretty good about that.
There we go. Dan, you're lousy.
Yeah, I understand the point you're making there. But those are
it makes sense, right? But if the Rams have any control over where he goes, I doubt it's going to be.
But to your point, you said they may wind up having
to
release him.
Yeah. But that may be some motivation to get a deal done, to have some control over where he goes. Good for him and his agent for getting that $5 million guarantee. That should help goose things.
You know what's so funny? This reminds me of a saying that I was told when I was a player, and a saying I remember someone reiterating to me when I got in the front office. Front office people's jobs is to replace you. If they can't replace you, then they've done their job. That's what happens to every single player. Puka Nakua's emergence has made Cooper Kupp one of the guys who you look at and you go, he was the hero of their Super Bowl run.
MVP.
Now all of a sudden he's expendable. Yeah. Think of how shocking that sounds to you.
He's become that player that every once in a while he'll make a catch and you'll say to yourself, "Oh yeah, right. He's still there." You know,
Don't forget the Rams are the team that was trying to get up last year to get Brock Bowers, if I'm accurate, is right. So they have been looking for that kind of secondary pass catching threat for a year or two now.
Okay, so that was the second big trade story that happened yesterday. The really big one, both literally and
here we go,
figuratively,
Myles Garrett.
That guy, Cleveland, Myles Garrett. He posted a trade request on social media yesterday. He is the NFL's reigning Defensive Player of the Year. He finished the season second in sacks, sixth in pass rush win rate. He's had 14 sacks in each of the last 4 seasons. That's been done exactly 0 times before in NFL history. So yesterday he released a statement saying in part, "While I've loved calling this city my home, my desire to win and compete on the biggest stages won't allow me to be complacent. The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. It has always been to compete for and win a Super Bowl." And you were talking about.
Let me back that up for a second. Because let's look at that quote for a second.
In each of the last 4 seasons, that's been done exactly 0 times before in NFL history. So yesterday he released a statement saying in part, "While I've loved calling this city my home, my desire to win and compete on the biggest stage."
All right. I can't guarantee that the Cowboys win a Super Bowl. But if you're saying compete on the biggest stage, who gets more primetime games and of course, publicity than the Cowboys? The stage isn't any bigger than that. You talked about the Cowboys more than you talked about Kansas City and the Eagles, which are playing the Super Bowl this weekend. As Micah Parsons put it, come to Dallas and raise your media profile. I'm just saying. But I don't see the Cowboys spending draft picks, valuable number 1 draft picks for Myles Garrett and having to pay him as well. I just don't see the Cowboys. I know we're looking at the new Stephen Jones who talks about free agency and things, but you can't go from 0 to 100 like that with Stephen Jones. It's going to have to be baby steps. All this, of course, is just dreams, my friend, just dreams. We're always listed, and here's where MLF football has Cowboys as co-favorites to trade for Myles Garrett. And, you know, it always is, because all of that just builds up more excitement and bigger disappointments for all of us. So don't believe the hype. I'm Mark Holmes, and I appreciate you guys. We're going to be on the road again. I just can't wait to get on the road again. And we'll see you soon. Peace out.